Hello friends, today I'm talking about feeling numb. Feeling like you need shock cables to just feel anything, okay? A lot of people that have been through narcissistic abuse or childhood trauma grow up feeling this sense of numbness, like they just can't feel. And it's confusing. You can look at people and see that people are feeling. People are having and expressing emotions, but you just can't seem to, there's a switch off, right? So I want to talk a little bit about what that is and what you can do about it, okay? So you have to understand that if you're feeling numb and you are detached from your feelings, it's normally because something in your life was so overwhelming for you that your brain decided that it was too much for you. And it developed this coping skill of turning off your emotions, okay? It's done not on a conscious level. This is done on a subconscious level. So what are some things that would cause the brain to do that? Well, obviously, extreme forms of abuse and neglect. Those are obvious ones, but even emotional neglect, and I'm not trying to make any of these better or worse than each other because they're all horrible, right? No child should ever have to deal with any of those things. But when it comes to emotional neglect, the thing is that it's hard to kind of understand that that's something you went through. Okay, there aren't any bruises on your body. There aren't any, you may have been well fed. You may have had clothes. You may have had all of your physical needs taken care of. So, there's this thought that my life wasn't so bad when it comes to emotional neglect. But the thing is if you were not allowed to have your feelings, if you were not allowed to have your thoughts, if you weren't allowed to get excited about something and feel safe to feel excited, to feel safe to be sad, to feel safe to be hungry, okay? If you didn't feel safe feeling any of those things, and it was met with intense rage or silent treatment or shaming, for a child, that's too intense of an emotion to bear. The thought that you're considered bad, that there's something wrong with you, to a child, that kind of taps into their survival, right? They need to be loved and cared about because they can't do it themselves. So the thought is, if my parent can't feel a certain way towards me, then I'm going to be alone and I can't take care of myself, causes them to do whatever they need to feel safe with that parent. So if emotions aren't safe, guess what their brain does with emotions? It's like, turns it off. I've had sessions with clients that tell me, Michele, I'm not human. I'm a robot. I cannot feel anything. And it's almost like you can hear it in their voice. They have the perfect tone of, look, I'm pleasant. I'm not going to do or say anything wrong or bad. Even when they're talking about intensely painful things, they keep that tone that they have memorized because maybe that was the tone they needed to have so that their parent didn't get upset with them. And they cannot, their window of tolerance to emotions is so small that they don't feel anything. And it's not a way to live. If you are feeling that, you're not living. You're not living. You feel like you're just existing. You're alive, but you're not living. It's like you're on emotional life support, right? Something is keeping you alive, but you're not really feeling it, just like physical life support. You're physically there, but you're not active. You're not doing anything. That's what it feels like. So when we have that numbness, again, it was like emotional Novocaine that our brain decided that we needed. And now it's 24/7 that we have it. The way to start working through it, it's not easy because your brain thinks it's keeping you safe by doing that. It doesn't realize anymore that it's now maladaptive. It thinks it's keeping you safe. And so when you're trying to feel, your body doesn't let you. It's a crazy situation. You can't, it's like there's two pieces of you. There's you trying to get in, and there's the piece of you that won't let you. So the first thing that I just want to mention is that if that happened, you kind of have to befriend your numbness or the pieces of you that don't feel that you're ready to go in there. And sometimes your body's right. You're not ready. Sometimes when we try to go into our feelings, what I found that happens is if you have not learned yet how to emotionally show up for yourself, you wind up treating your emotions the way your abuser did. So you're trying to get into the emotions, and you might see a little bit of an emotion and you get mad at yourself for it. Or you insult the emotion, or you hate yourself for having it. That emotional Novocaine then says, whoa, we need to stay numb. Because look what happens when he or she starts seeing these emotions. It reminds them of the abuse that was endured that provoked the numbness in the first place. So when you're trying to get in touch with your feelings, you have to first recognize that the importance of accepting and validating whatever is there. You have to ask yourself, okay, if I really want to work through this numbness, am I really ready and able, and have I been demonstrating unconditional love of self? Okay, because what's operating that numbness is in your subconscious mind. And your subconscious mind knows everything that you do, say, feel, or think, more than your conscious mind. Okay, so if you're like, yes, I love myself. Yes, I'm ready to, treat myself with unconditional love. Your subconscious mind's going to be like, oh, no, you're not. This morning, you saw the emotion of loneliness, and you told me that I was a horrible person and that you hate myself and that I'm lovable. So that's not unconditional love. In other words, we can't lie to our subconscious mind. So if you want to start getting in touch with that numbness, the first place to start is learning how to show up for yourself with a compassionate inner dialogue. Start paying attention to yourself, to your inner dialogue, what you say to yourself all day long. What are your thoughts? I recently had an experience with a client that really, it touched my heart. But she was talking about her inner child, where she realized that her inner child was still hurt. And her inner child wouldn't allow her to feel certain emotions. And when I asked her why, she said, my inner child's scared of being mistreated. And when I asked by who, she said, by me. And the only time that her inner child felt safe to allow some feelings to come up was during a session. So I told her, I was like, oh, so your inner child feels more safe with me than she does with you. And we laughed. But that was a moment of truth that was very surprising, and it came up. That if our inner child doesn't feel safe showing your real feelings to you, she or he won't. And the way you start showing your inner child that you are safe is start paying attention to what you're saying to yourself. Okay, your subconscious mind will not believe what you say. It will always believe what you do. Okay? So start befriending the numbness. Start befriending the pieces of you that are trying to keep you out. And do that in a compassionate way. And you'll have to earn the trust of those pieces of yourself. They won't trust you if you talk harshly, if you're critical, if you're demeaning, if you're impatient. You have to develop complete compassion and unconditional love. And then as that numbness starts to feel safe, it will slowly start showing you things. How you respond to the emotions that come up is either going to close that door again or open it. Now, it's not easy because the emotions that are going to come up, they're intense emotions. It's why you're numb in the first place, because they were too intense for you to feel in the past. So you have to really get yourself to a place where you feel comfortable in the discomfort in your own body, because that's what's going to continue to strengthen the trust that your inner self will have in order to release that. Okay, so for anyone that's going through this process, please know it doesn't happen overnight. And it doesn't change because you watch one video and you learn something on a conscious level. A lot of these struggles with complex PTSD, with emotional trauma, they are stored in your subconscious. And it's about rewiring the subconscious so that you can emerge as the person you really are. And that takes time. You have to be willing. Are you willing to give yourself that so that you can slowly make changes that are lasting? Okay, instead of changes that happen for a week and then you're right back in the same boat next month, right? We start to make changes, but because we're not consistent enough, our default kicks in and you wind up back where you started. You have to be ready to work through the process. You have to be willing to give yourself that time. If you're struggling to do that on your own, please check out my resources in the description box. I have a 3-month face-to-face intense coaching that I offer. It combines life coaching sessions with Psych-K balances and releasing trapped emotions. It's an awesome 3-month package. If that's too intense for you and you're not ready for something like that, you might want to check out the Thriver School of Transformation, where we take everything we've learned, everything that's out there as far as information, and we look at how to apply it in our everyday life so that we could start seeing change and transformation in our life. So those resources are always available. In March, I have a 15% off coupon. It's in the description if you want to try the school and see if